Yep. The 8mm is only for fun.
Huh?
The 8mm is only for fun, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, you see that video I did?
This piece is called I Remember You. When I started developing this piece is when I really began to feel my stride. I really began to feel like I knew what I was doing, the direction I was going in. This is probably I think this was the 4th piece. And I started getting a sense of what I was doing and really started listening to my intuition and listening to other voice that creates that power within each piece, that spiritual aspect. I began to feel like our ancestors were beginning to awaken within my work. This series is called Kukumbuka Kifo. It's Swahili for to remember the dead. It's to remember those that passed in the middle passage, those that died not in Africa, but those that died along the shores of Africa, and those that died until they got to the land where they were then enslaved and beat and forced into slavery. But that space where many people begin to they would jump off the ships, or they would create mutiny, or they would throw them off the boat with cement blocks, or they would throw their children off because they didn't want their children to be enslaved, or those people, those children.
I met a friend of mine, brother here.
Done.
All right, so this one is more about on these items of power. They had one part where it had fabric, like on the last one, and then they had some that had these bonds. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to completely take the item of power and then break it off into 10 different pieces. So with this one is the bottom half of one of the pieces. I wanted to create that same feel of being bound, the knots. Knots were a way of counting years in Africa, also a way of documenting time. Larger knots meaning certain things, smaller knots meaning different things. And if you notice, I added stones as well, because those stones and the copper, those stones are stones of love. They help to create love in the atmosphere of rose quartz. And the copper, once again, is a conduit. So each piece creates its own power. Each piece has different items that remind you of either love, or they bring better levels of communication. They bring almost psychic abilities once they're in the room and get acclimated to the room. Over here, you can also notice I put keys on here, because keys are openers to doors, openers to love, openers to past and reflection, and bringing back those things that, dealing with those things in our lives to open things up. And then over here, I even left my wedding band from my first marriage.
All right, great.
So you're full-time photographer, or is it part-time? You just
This one was when I began to learn more about taking away and adding on. It's where I began studying more into balance, composition, and creating these pieces. It was one of the first pieces where I began burning things. The first piece that I added something like a shoe. So it was this was a landmark piece for me.
We said education, higher education, teach people.
Adding the gold, adding these buds that were actually in my yard, because I wanted to use things that were very natural, things that were around me, to create these items of power, the same way that the Africans used those items that were around them to create items of power. If I am a mystic here, as they were a mystic there, I'm building that bridge between the mysticism between Africa and here in America.
You good?